Perfect. So awesome. So once again, your voices will not be in the recording, but my voice will be in the recording. So I'm going to just refresh this story and we can get started with it. And I'm going to mute it. But this story does have a voiceover for all teachers, and we're just going to review what we covered last week on what is a variable. So what is a variable? And well, a variable, the definition of a variable is it's a name that stores a value. So a variable can be referred to in a program over time. So what were some of the examples of variables that we came up with? Can you think of a variable? What could be a variable? We're going to store a value, and we're going to refer to this variable over time. No idea yet? Okay, just watch, you could just watch my screen, and then we're going to go through this first before we actually code our Mad Lib story. So variables are a container, so you could think of them like this basket here. And we're going to call this variable vegetable because we can name a variable anything. Usually we want to name it something that's related to the value that we're going to put inside the variable. So like, for example, if I click on carrots, then, oh, my carrots are here. So carrots are here. It's a value. And if I click on potatoes, see, potatoes are here. So this is all done with elementary. You can remix it to see how the code works. And let's click on carrots again. Carrots are here. And you notice that variable, it's a container. It doesn't change. The name doesn't change, but the things that are stored inside of it changes. So we can put anything inside of this container. In this case, we put carrots or potatoes. So in computer science, when you create a variable, you need to specify its type. So the type is really important because the computer needs to know what it can do with the variable. It's also really important for just memory purposes because certain types of data will need more memory for the computer. So what does this mean? Well, for example, the computer can add two numbers together, but it can't add a number in a text. So 2 plus 2 equals 4. But if you say 2 plus Jaden, what does that mean? The computer will just be like, I don't know. So we need to make sure that the type is always specified when we create a variable. And if you use computer programming languages, such as like the very basic ones like C, no matter what, you need to always, always, always specify the type. So variable types on elementary are text, number, and Boolean. We only have 3 types, but in other programming languages, there's lots and lots and lots of types. We just have 3 for the sake of simplicity. And some examples of variables that we talked about last time are text variables, which are the name, the email, city, state, favorite color, breed of your dog, anything that is like a string of text. So with letters or a combination of letters plus numbers. And number variables need to be a specific number. So it can only be a number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 500, 7,000. Those are all examples of numbers. And Boolean is true, false value. So it can only be 2 values. It could either be true or it could be false. You could think of it also whenever you think of like zeros and ones, it's basically like Boolean. So for example, you can check to see, oh, does the player have a key? There's only two states. Yes, he has the key, or no, he does not have a key, right? You can't have a middle ground. Or is this, animal a dog? Yes or no, true or false. So right now, we're only going to focus on the text variable. We're not going to ignore the blue and the yellow. Yeah, just block those out. They don't exist right now. And we're going to focus just on the red text variables and just try to understand that. So what's weird about the following sentence? Jaden, what do you think is weird about this sentence? Okay, so this sentence, is this like a normal sentence in English? Do we normally write like this? No, we don't normally write like this. If you write a letter to someone and you put these little squiggly curly brackets in, then that's that would be definitely weird. So yeah, that's definitely what's weird about this sentence. So there are strange curly brackets in the sentence, and whatever is between the two curly brackets is a variable. And we can also call the two curly brackets a mustache. And mustache is a technical term. You can say that it is a mustache template syntax. And it's used often for programming languages that are very template heavy based. So they have, in JavaScript, they have a library called mustache.js, and it's literally called mustache.js. And that's because they use the two curly brackets everywhere. So we covered a little bit about there's two sides on every page. We have the event graph side, which is the back side. And we have the layout design side, which is the front side. And oh, someone else is here. And I don't know why my image disappeared, but basically, oh, it's because I need to put a picture. Basically, we need to first create a text variable on the back side. We need to declare them. And then on the front side, we can use the curly bracket. And we don't see this because I actually have to upload the curly brackets as an image because it won't actually show the curly bracket. So let me just show you really quick what that looks like, because I forgot that the curly brackets don't really like the read view because it is a variable. So yeah, it will look like this. So you need the two curly brackets, and they have to match exactly. So it needs to match 100% exactly the same. If it's lowercase, it needs to be lowercase. If it's uppercase, it needs to be uppercase. In programming languages, we like lowercase, so just lowercase everything for the most part. And if you use first name, you have to use first name. So they have to match. This is really, really important. Okay, so I'm just going to continue reading from here. Mute myself. And so here we have the example that we did before. And we created some input fields. Now, these input fields allow the reader to type in something. So, for example, what is your name? Let's say my name is Joshua. Hi, Joshua. How are you doing? And what's your favorite sport, Joshua? Swimming. Great. So we're just testing our two variables and that they're working and that they're storing a value. So let's click on next. And now I can say, hi, Joshua, I love swimming too. So we can now use the variable throughout the program or the game. And remember, once again, when we are on the layout design side, we need to have the curly brackets or the mustache. So if we go back, I'm going to show you, I will need the curly brackets in order to specify the variable. So I need to go back. And I actually messed up this. It needs to be first name because remember, it needs to match exactly. So if I say preview. So Bren, what's your favorite sport? Oh yeah, you two are like the same. So swimming also. So then say, hi, Bren, I love swimming too. And then I can continue my story while using the stored value for the variable. So, oh, because I think it looks cute. So I put the little, it's called a tilde, a little squiggly line. I like putting the squiggly line after things because it looks cute. So that's what the little squiggly line is. And then here's the event graph code. So this is the read view, but you can obviously remix the story once I publish it later and see it for yourself. But basically, last time we declared our variables, so we created two variables, and then we used the event on text input. So this event triggers when I finish typing in my text as a reader. After the reader types in something and then presses enter or exits the input field, then it triggers whatever comes after. So whatever comes after is I set my variable equal to the text object. And what text object am I referring to? Well, I'm referring to this one. And it's the same logic for the second one. So that's a review of kind of what we did. And I'll publish this again once I fix this. I need to make this an image because you can't use curly brackets. They won't show up properly. Okay, great. So I need water. And on a scale of 1 to 5, how confident are you now with using variables? Okay, no problem. What about you, Joshua? What? Okay. He's like, I'm not going to say 5, but it's like a 5. Okay, great. Well, a Mad Lib story is a fill in the blank story. So here is an example that I started that you'll usually see on a regular, worksheet in English class, for example. And normally what you would do as a student would be you would go in and you would fill in an adjective like, I don't know, smelly, and a name like, I don't know, I always like to use fluffy. So, and then you would use that over and over again, the name, same name. And then you would, fill in the other stuff to make a story that way. So in our case, we want to actually make this into a game. So how can we do that? Well, we're going to use the same idea of what we did in the example with what is your name and what sport do you like to play? But instead, we want to use the specific things that we want to fill in. So if we want an adjective, we want to ask the reader for an adjective. If we want a noun, we want to ask the reader for a noun. If we want a specific weapon, we want to ask the reader for a specific weapon, okay? So that's the idea of it. So I'm gonna say the first step is maybe like, what is your name? So yeah, so you can add multiple text fields, or so you can add multiple text fields on one page, or you can continuously ask the reader throughout the story. So you can maybe say, what is your name? And then have a response. And then maybe on the second page, you're going to do something similar. So let's see. How do you describe yourself? Okay. So maybe let's have one more question. What should the last question be? Okay. What do you like? And let's say we want to add a button when we're ready to go next. Start. And I'm going to just customize my button so it looks pretty and purple. Okay, perfect. So I want to move this center, and I'm just going to find some generic background. Okay, so now we have to code everything, and in order to code, we need to go to the event graph. And here we have no code because we haven't done anything yet. So what event do we want? On input. And we need 3 of them. I'm just going to grab 3 of them because we're going to do basically the same thing, but 3 times. So yeah, so you can, if you want to do if you want to copy it, you can copy the page. So for example, maybe you want to ask 3 questions and then you can, duplicate the page and then it'll copy all of the page and its code. And so you can ask 6 questions without really needing to code too much. So we could try that. So I'm going to create a text variable. So I'm going to create 3. And right now, it just makes up a name for my variables. And I want to make my variable names something that I can understand. Because if I use my variable, we can't use that as a name, but it's not very clear about what value is going to be in this, is going to be stored in this variable. So what should my variable names be? Let's go back. What should the variable name be for this one? What are we storing? What value are we storing? So we're storing the name. So what's a good name for that variable? Yeah, the name. Great. So we're going to call this name. Now, the second one, how do you describe yourself? What's a good name for a variable here? So it could be describe, it could really be anything. It just needs to be something that you can remember. So I'm going to call it describe self, or describe adjective. And actually, no, I changed my mind. We're going to go with describe. And what do you like? What's a good variable name for this one? You don't have to think too much about it because the name really doesn't matter too much. We just want to remember, yeah, you could just call it like. So we just have to remember the name variable has values that are going to be the name, okay? Describe is going to have values that are going to be adjectives that maybe describe the person. And then like would be referring to what the person likes. So we have our three variables. They are declared. So declared means that they're created or they're instantiated. Those are all big vocabulary terms that basically mean the same thing, but yeah. So what we need next is we need what? We created it and we need a couple blocks. So we're going to go to variables, and which block are we going to get? This one? So we can use this one. You can't see it that well? Let's see. How do I make it better so you can see it? I'm not sure what I can do. I am sharing the screen. Okay. Oh, I think you can like pin video, right? Okay, well, I'll try to talk everything out so you can you can hear what I'm doing. So we're going to need, we can try using this a little bit later, but we're not going to use this block because we want to grab the value of the text object. So we need to use the variable equals text object block. Now we're just going to grab 3 of them because we're basically going to do the same thing. Yep. And then we need our 3 text field objects. So text field 0 is what is your name? So let's do that one first. Text field 0 is what is your name? Okay. Jaden, can you control my mouse and see if you can connect things together? Yep. Move it around. Okay. Maybe you don't have the updated zoom or whatever. Okay. Well, that's fine. Hi, Bren. Control my mouse. Go. Just, so are you done with the first one? Are we missing something? Okay, and then we're missing one last step. So you connected everything together and you need to, great, you need to select your variable. Great. So yeah, you could do all 3. So this is, how do you describe yourself? The last one is, what do you like? Okay, great. so I'm going to take my mouse back. I shall take it back. Are you done? I'm never taking my mouse after this. Abort control. Okay. Okay, so now we have everything set up. And in order to see that our variable is being set properly, we just need to go back to the layout design, and we're just going to double check very simply by putting it here. So how do we show a variable on layout design? Yep, you need the mustache. And what are the mustache are the curly brackets? You need 2. It's important that you have 2. If you have 1, it will not work because it's very specific. So what's our variables called again? The first one is called name. And we need to close the curly brackets. So you need 2 again. And then the second one is called what? Describe. And then like. Okay, so it's a bit difficult to read. There we go. That's easier to read. Okay, so we're just gonna check it, make sure everything works. So I'm gonna hit preview. Going to run our code. You'll notice there's nothing yet because initially all of your variables are empty. There's nothing inside of them. They're empty containers. So I'm gonna put in, give me a name. What? Steve? How do you describe yourself? Steve? Adventurous. I don't think that's how you spell it. How do you spell adventure? I'm really bad at spelling. Adventurous. Is that how you spell it? I think so. Okay. No, maybe not. Alright, what does Steve like? War. Okay, this is a very okay. Steve adventurous war. Okay, so we now know that our variables are set, and then we can continue and create our Mad Lib story after that. So typically what we would want to do is maybe have a next, have a start button. We press start and it goes to the next page. Okay, so we want to make sure that maybe they don't flip the page. So in order to do that, we're going to lock the navigation. So let's lock the navigation on page start. And we have these 2 blocks that are called lock navigation next page and lock navigation previous page. So normally on elementary, you can navigate by using the arrow keys to go left and right, or you can swipe left and right. We don't want that. We want to make it so that the player does exactly what we tell them to do. So we're just, yeah, that seems like a really scary teacher. Go to work now. Okay. So I mentioned before we can duplicate a page and all of its code. To do that, you can click on the down arrow, the down, not an arrow, down triangle, clicks duplicate selected page, and it copies the page and its code. Now let's take a look at the code and see if there's any differences. What do you see that's different? Really? There's no difference? There's no difference. Joshua, you see a difference? You see the difference? What's the difference? Okay, so you notice that when I duplicate a page, the variables are now named a little different. And that exact. So variables don't want to have the same name. They have to be unique. So when we declare a variable, it needs to be unique. And so in our case, it automatically makes them unique. And so if we wanted to do, I don't know, what are some other questions we might want to ask? That's a very specific question. What's your favorite restaurant? Restaurant. Can't spell. I think that's spelled correctly. I don't even know. Okay, what's another? Okay, what do you like doing in your free time? And the okay, what's another question? Okay, so we're saying they're about the same. It's okay. Let's have something like okay. So we now have 3 more questions, and we have to now edit our lovely what are they called? Variables. So the first one was what restaurant. What's the second one? Free. So variables are not allowed to have spaces. If you put a space, it's going to put an underscore, and that's because in computer programming, you can't put spaces in variables. It's illegal. You will run into errors. So underscore. So computers are pretty dumb, and basically zeros and ones are just ways that it's just how computers work and basically how they run and function. And since everything is zeros and ones, there's really no gray area. It's basically, there's only a finite number of states, essentially. And the last one is subject. Okay, so let's just make sure everything works. And we say restaurant. What was it? Free time. And then subject. So we can just make sure everything works. I don't know, what's your favorite restaurant? What? I don't even know how to spell that. Okay, you know what? R G R O. Is it like 2 words? Like that? Okay. What do I like doing? I don't know. Sleeping. Favorite subject? Good one. I was gonna say recess, but you don't have recess after elementary school, and that makes it sad. Okay. So now we basically are able to ask the reader any type of question that we want. And you as the designer can now use this information to create a story that basically fills in the blank. So let's say like, I mean, this sounds like a student, right? So once upon a time, there was a student named name. It doesn't need to have a space. You can put it like this. It works too. So describe a chicken. Okay. Was a described chicken. Okay, sure. Whatever you want. And so was a described chicken who really liked right? That was our variable. Like, yeah. Okay. Now we want to say his restaurant, right? So what do I say? Name love to eat at restaurant. Mad monk fish. So it's like a fish that's a monk. Okay. Okay, well, you know what? We're just going to keep it like this, and we're just going to test it out. And I'm going to move this up so we can just test it out. Okay, so we have a name, Steve again. Okay, so all of our characters are named Steve is what? Stinky. And Steve likes what? We should make Joshua. Joshua, what does Steve like? Did he go eat something? Tickling people? Okay, let's see if this even makes sense, okay? Oh no, I forgot to set the start button. Right now I can't navigate, so I need to on click. So we need on click, go to page. We forgot some important steps. Okay. Yeah, can't navigate. Doesn't work. Okay. Let's try. Steve, stinky, tickling people. Okay, start. Once upon a time, there was a student named Steve. Steve was a stinky chicken who liked tickling people. Now, there you go. So this is basically how you would make your Mad Lib story. It's up to you how you want to design it afterwards. As many as you want. You could just do 3 and then just create a couple. It's up to you. If you want to add images, maybe instead of this, you might want to say something like hi, Steve, or whoever it is. It's the font, okay? There. Looks better. Okay, so I'm gonna make a, I didn't show you this last time, but I'm gonna make a narrator. I'm gonna get a girl, because I'm a girl. Voila. And I'm going to customize her so she looks cuter. Yes, you can customize. Nope, this is free. Under animations. Okay, these are some weird eyebrows. Oh. She's ready for war. Oh dear. Okay, well, we have a girl. Perfect. And a background. We can. Oh, that's really hard to read. There we go. It's gonna be pink. Okay, so we have the basics of our story. Another thing that you can do is maybe in your story in the future, you don't want them to type in something. Maybe you want them to choose an image, okay? So we talked about this a little bit before. Whereas like in like a RPG game, like a role-playing game, you might want the player to choose a weapon, for example. So let's, I don't know if we even have any guns. I don't think so. Do we have a sword? Got a sword. Maybe. Well, we have a, here, you have a, pick a dwarf. Okay, you can choose between a sword and a dwarf wand thing. Uh, I don't know. If I search weapon, do I have anything? Let's look. Sometimes look under tools. You could pick scissors. Your weapon is scissors. Your weapon is a sewing machine. There you go. Okay. Okay, so for example, so maybe you want to say like, choose your weapon. Okay. Okay, so similar to when we have the text input, we want to first create a text variable. Okay, and we're gonna call this variable weapon. Yep, that's actually what we're gonna do next time. Yep, exactly. So we're going to actually, we're going to first make it so, oh, when I set, I'm going to click on one of these weapons or object. So for example, I can say on click. Then I can do, remember, there was this one, variable equals value. So what do you think variable equals value means? Yeah, the variable equals the value. And so let's put a value for this. What value should I put in? What is this? Okay, we're going to call it a sword. So if I go here and I want to test my variable again, So remember, this is not necessary. It's just for fun. And also when you finish creating your story, you don't want this here. It looks really ugly. You just want to delete it. It's just for your debugging purposes to make it easy to make sure that you spelled everything right and everything's kind of working. Okay, so choose your weapon. I'm going to preview. And when I click on it, sword appears. Okay, so it's glowing because you can interact with the object. So interact with the object means that you can click on it or you can drag it. So in our case, we're just clicking on it. And I don't know, here's my sewing machine. Okay. There you go. Okay, so variable equals value. And we want the same thing. So we're going to choose the same variable because that's our container, right? And then the value is different. This time it's a sword. This one is what? A dwarf. And this one is a sewing machine. So let's try it out. Right now, you can okay. So in this case, we can click on any of them. And maybe the next thing that we want is we want to direct the reader to a different page, right? So yeah. Oh, yes, you want to use go to page. Go to page, your best friend, or your choose your own adventure. So we go to page 5. And here you can have some ginormous text that says, your weapon is weapon. So it's really hard. Okay. Okay, so your weapon is dwarf. And let's try it out. You could do that. I mean, there's nothing. Yeah, so there's nothing stopping you from putting this value to be whatever value you want. You can put all of them to be dwarf if you wanted to. There's nothing stopping you from that. Your player will be very upset with you, but there's nothing stopping you from putting dwarf as the value for all the images. You can so yeah, I think next time we can learn about how we can use the logic blocks. So then when we use the logic blocks, we can, for example, compare to see if a variable is equal to a certain. So we can use this block here. And basically this block is saying, I'm going to compare a variable to a value. And if it's equal to that value, I'm going to do something. If it isn't equal to it, I can do something else. So then you can say like, okay, if it's a dwarf, then you can display a text that says, you have, 0 damage, good luck. Okay, so that's kind of the idea of that. So How is our understanding of text variables now on a scale of 1 to 5? 4 3/4. Okay, great. So we're pretty good with this. And I'm pretty sure this time it recorded everything properly, so you can go back and look at this video. Otherwise, once again, we have how to use a text variable in the tutorials here. And basically what we did was this tutorial, but using different names. So, yep. I don't know if you have any questions, but I think that's it for the recording. So, you. And I'm going to stop the recording now.